Alright, as many of you guys may know, I happen to be a little bit of a Marvel consumer. Not so much Marvel comics, but like the MCU, like the Marvel movies, particularly the MCU stuff. I am a MCU consumer. I have a Disney Plus subscription. I watch all the new Marvel movies. I watch the new Marvel shows. I genuinely am a fan of the MCU. I would even argue that I am overly generous to some MCU projects in many, many cases. But today we're going to talk about an MCU project that was genuinely as bad in the areas in which I feel it offended as conservatives hyped it up to be. Today we're going to be talking about She-Hulk. So, a couple nights ago, I booted up the old Disney Plus subscription, and I watched the first episode of Marvel's She-Hulk. Now, I liked it. I didn't hate it. I wasn't completely miserable, and it wasn't terrible content. For what it is, which is like a silly lawyer show set in the MCU about She-Hulk, for what it is, it's fine. There's even actually some funny jokes in there. I guess very tiny spoiler alert, but the after credits scene of the first episode is Bruce Banner and She-Hulk, who is Bruce Banner's cousin, younger cousin. They're drinking at a like a beachside hut that Bruce Banner and Tony Stark built during the snap between Infinity War and Endgame, and she's been pestering Bruce Banner, or the Hulk, the whole time about whether or not Captain America had ever lost his virginity. So she gets down to the point where she's like crying drunk, like, I can't believe Captain America died without losing his virginity. I can't believe he died a virgin. And eventually Hulk gives in. He's like, fine, okay. Captain America lost his virginity at a USO show in like 1938, I think it was. And then she's like, oh, Captain America fucks! And it just ends. That was funny. I actually laughed pretty hard when she screamed, Captain America fucks. That was actually a pretty damn good joke. But outside of that, it wasn't necessarily top-tier Marvel content. IMO. She even said fucks? Yeah, she said fucks. It was pretty top-tier Marvel well, no, it was not top-tier. Sorry. It wasn't exactly top-tier Marvel content, but it was, like, decent, you know? However, the areas where this really had issues, at least episode 1 did, was the political parts. Now, I'm not talking about the whole, oh, she's like a woman and she's strong and has the Hulk powers and there's like a slight air of like feminist messaging there. No. This particular show is very on the nose with its political messaging. And its political messaging isn't even that agreeable. At one point, they basically outright state that She-Hulk is better than the Hulk because she's a woman. It's pretty much outright stated. So, it really does feel like they tried to hit every single conservative stereotype of what media does when it goes woke and goes broke. And ironically enough, the show doesn't seem to be doing poorly, so it hasn't even gone broke, from what I can tell. Anyway, Ben Shapiro has jumped on the bandwagon of shitting on this show. No doubt he's going to somehow find a way to over-exaggerate how bad this show is. An episode of a show that legitimately made me cringe several times throughout just the first episode. Let's see what Ben has to say.
Speaking of institutions that are blowing out their credibility in the media, Disney continues apace. So, remember that time that they used to make comic book movies that were fun and didn't lecture you on woke garbage? Remember that? Wasn't that nice? Like you watch the old Superman movies with Christopher Reeves and you're like, oh, wow, there's not.
I mean, She-Hulk is very lectury, okay? She-Hulk is hardcore, like, high horsey and lectury, okay? It is, alright? If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But, like, what he's referring to here is one example, or one case that he thinks is an example of a broader issue. He thinks that nowadays, basically all the superhero movies are like woke, overly political, virtue signally, like in your face their political messaging attempts to cash grab at like progressive political messaging, right? And that does exist, but it's not really that common. The vast majority of the time, it's just a character exists who is not a cis straight white man, and then outside of the media itself, advertising hypes that up or gets upset about it. Then it becomes a whole moral panic and a culture war issue, and then the quality of the media, when it actually comes out, ends up being deterministic of what political side won a point during that round of the culture war this time around. That's how it always ends up going, and that's how She-Hulk is going to go as well.
Not a lot of politics to this. It's basically just Superman. And then you watch Batman Begins and The Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. And you're like, there might be some political messaging here, but it's pretty deeply buried. It mostly just seems thought-provoking. Well, now, the writers for the shows on...
By the way, what Ben Shapiro is saying right now is just on its own a very stupid argument. He's saying, remember back when superhero movies could just be superhero movies and you could just sit down and enjoy them? Nothing is disallowing superheroes movies from just being superhero movies, okay? They're allowed to exist now. You're upset that artists are making the decision and studios are making the decision to make movies the way they've decided to make them, okay? That is what you're complaining about here. There are no rules that have banned the type of superhero movies that you've got this nostalgia boner for, Ben. Also, what an amazing pause face. Hey, Cherry, if you need an image of Ben Shapiro for the thumbnail of this video, I think you've got one right here, my friend. That is a very good pause face for the thumbnail.
On Disney and in the Marvel Universe are basically just reading slate pitches and directly channeling them into the dialogue. So this show looks just garbage. I would be honest with you, ever since Disney decided to unleash the fact publicly that it was trying to indoctrinate kids in LGBTQ plus minus divided by sign queer theory.
Hey, listen, if you don't have any arguments and all you can say is, haha, look how long the acronym is, then you might want to reconsider your worldview, okay? When 99% of Ben Shapiro's commentary on why gay people are bad is either gay people are pedophiles, not true, or like they have long acronym. I can't keep track of all the pronouns and all the letters and numbers. It's attack helicopter jokes and memes is all they have. They don't actually have arguments. Who would have thought the guy that pioneered facts don't care about your feelings is incapable of actually using his brain to formulate a thought or facts-based argument or a facts-based opinion?
When they said that, I canceled my Disney Plus subscription, so I've not watched a single moment of Disney Plus since then. And it's one of the reasons why we here at Daily Wire have dedicated $100 million over 3 years to developing children's content, because it turns out that content for kids should basically just be content for kids. Well, now what they've decided to...
Oh, wait! You know what this reminds me of? This is kind of a stun lock, but it's related. The Daily Wire is producing a movie featuring Gina Carano. Daily Wire Gina Carano movie. For those of you guys that don't know, Gina Carano played the Mandalorian's partner. She's an actress and MMA lady. big and punchy. She looks like she could beat the shit out of me. But she's also a crazy anti-vaxxer conservative type. And she was in The Mandalorian, and she got fired because of her tweets. And following that, instead of apologizing and like getting her job back super easy, she decided to join the Daily Wire, and she's going to be in a movie that the Daily Wire is making. And the one image I've seen of it, I'm trying to find it. It's so under the radar and nobody cares about it so much that it's hard to even find the leaked screenshot that I'm thinking of. I think it's a leaked screenshot of the movie. It's about Biden. It wasn't just one of her tweets, it was many of her tweets. Yeah, she really just had to shut the fuck up, and she could have had, like, she literally could have had her own, Disney would have given her and her character their own fucking TV show and or movie, I bet. The rate that, like, they're going with the Star Wars universe. All she had to do was just shut the fuck up. Unironically. If Gina Carano just shut the fuck up, she would be the star of her own Disney Expanded Universe TV show or movie on Disney Plus by now. Putting that aside, though, yeah, a lot of people loved Cara Dune in The Mandalorian. She was a cool character. And Gina Carano is not a bad actor. She's also, or actress. She's also, listen, Chad, I could fix her, okay? I could fix her. I could fix her, chat. I could fix her. Anyway, where's the particular image that I'm thinking of? It's Biden. Biden is in it. Here it is. Okay. This is the one leaked image from the Daily Wire movie she is going to be in. This image now encapsulates her acting career post getting fired by Disney. Yes, that is in fact supposed to be Joe Biden. Apparently there's also an image or like a video or something where it's like him licking her neck. That's what I heard, though. I haven't seen that. So apparently that's where Gina Carano's acting career is now, after joining the Daily Wire, their film team, and getting fired by Disney. So, I don't know. That's just what Ben Shapiro talking about canceling his Disney Plus subscription reminded me of. I just couldn't help but think of that. She gave up playing a beloved character for this. Yep.
To do is that they're growing up. They're growing up the superhero genre. They've been doing this in the comic books for years, right? They got Ta-Nehisi Coates to write the Superman comics, which is like having Noam Chomsky write Superman back in the 1970s. They have somebody who
okay, to be fair, I will admit Noam Chomsky's said some pretty stupid shit recently. He has. I've seen him say some dumb shit, but considering the fact he's like 185 years old, he's bound to, even even a perfectly well-working clock after 185 years is eventually going to falter, It's gonna falter. Anyway, imagine putting them on the same level, though. Fucking imagine.
who openly talked in his memoir about smoking pot while watching 9/11 because he hated America so much.
What I love so much about Ben Shapiro is that he has all of these adorable little autistic anecdotes to bring up, he's memorized all these tiny little anecdotes to bring up about any individual person he doesn't like. That's doesn't really actually contribute a single thing to the argument he's making or to the point that he's making. All it's meant to do is to poison the well for anybody that's watching the video that's already likely to agree with what he's saying. What does Noam Chomsky smoking weed on 9/11 and him thinking America deserved it have to do with anything here other than to poison the well on the left and make it just generally contribute to the, atmosphere of, look how crazy the left is, guys. They're so wild.
Like, have that guy write about Superman. Makes perfect sense. Sounds great. So they've done that in the comic books for a while. Right? Superman in one of the spin-off universes is now a gay youth standing up for the pride flag or some such.
Who the fuck cares, Ben? Who the fuck cares?
So they've been doing that, and now they're...
I'm too busy eating pussy and fucking pussy to care about what flag Superman is bandying about in the new Superman comic, okay? I didn't even know that Superman was still alive in the current Superman comics, okay? I recently found out that Wolverine was apparently canonically dead in the X-Men comics for like 8 years, or still is or something, or has been dead for like 8 years. He's apparently like sealed in an adamantium shell. He got molten adamantium poured on him and it solidified and he's stuck in it now forever. And he's still alive in there, just kind of fucking stuck in agony, presumably, and very bored. I found out about that like fucking yesterday. I am way too busy being a normal fucking well-adjusted adult to give a shit about any of this stuff.
Putting it into the TV shows. And so you end up with just purely bad dialogue like this. I'm sorry, this is bad dialogue. So this is the character of She-Hulk explaining to Bruce Banner how she is really good at controlling her...
Okay, this scene is objectively bad. You've probably seen a Wojak meme of this scene and thought it was like an over-exaggeration of the show. It's almost copy-pasted dialogue. This is the scene I was referencing before. This is objectively bad.
Anger because she's a woman. You see. Here we go.
Here's the thing, Bruce. I'm great at controlling my anger. I do it all the time. But when I'm catcalled in the street, when incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me, I do it pretty much every day, because if I don't, I will get called emotional or difficult, or might just literally get murdered. So I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
All right. Who cringed and who didn't cringe? So here's the thing about that line that makes it so cringy, in my opinion, is that it's true, but it feels like they went out of their way to present a true statement in the most condescending and most unlikable way possible. I feel like the only people that can resonate with that line are woke people who are like really woke. And I'm really woke, and even I cringed my way through that line, and I understood what she meant, and I agreed with it. And like women who know the experience. Because let's be real, what she said there is true. If women don't control their anger and they get upset and they start yelling and raising their voices in public settings, they could have their lives fucking ruined. And just, the women have to control their anger in a lot of settings like this. Mansplaining is a real thing. All the examples she listed are real. Women sometimes get straight up assaulted or killed because they can't control their anger and they raise their voice to a man. Though, let's be real, it's way more common that a woman, raises a hand to a man and hits him and the guy can't do anything about it than that happening. But it happens nonetheless, and it is a risk that occurs. And the issue that I have with this is it's a true and accurate and real sentiment that has been presented in what feels like the most deliberately repellent way possible. And it's insulting to me as somebody whose job it is to take really, really hard to swallow truth pills and wrap them up in an explanation that people who are actively trying their best to not accept the truth will actually possibly maybe consider.
She's bad at it. She needs to calm down at the end there. But yeah, I mean, so now, and this has been hailed as just the most heroic thing. Well, Disney put the talking points from Jezebel right in the show. It's amazing. You have accounts like a co-host of Geeks of the Week, quote, "She-Hulk might genuinely be the first time some young men hear a woman speak candidly about experiences like this. It might not seem like it, but it's hugely important."
The problem is, I agree with that statement, but I have the opposite opinion. I think it's really harmful for a lot of young men to hear it in such a condescending, down-talky way. I think, I'm sorry, but like, you kind of have to be fragile with dudes, okay? Dudes are fragile little babies, all right? And when you make them feel like, you know, they're lesser in any way, or when you make them feel like they've, without even realizing it, have been doing something bad or have been doing something harmful, then they get super defensive. But yeah, good lord, it really is fucking cringe how they formed that line. It feels like they deliberately tried to make it so that a genuine and true sentiment would sound as bad as possible. And they made the delivery as condescending and as down-talky as possible. At least in my view. That's how I got it. Xander Hall desperately trying to get around talking about how trash this was without pissing off his leftoid audience is hilarious. Listen, you always got to get that little confidence boost by being reminded how downright insane and lacking in any arguments your detractors are. How I continue streaming knowing that all of my detractors are ontologically stupid and wrong.
And the music rises. We need some backlit lighting. Just a hero shot. Wait, I'm sorry. Is you lecturing in the most tendentious fashion?
To be fair, I saw the episode, and later on in the scene, she loses her shit and gets angry. So, she is wrong about being able to control her anger perfectly, but she does control it better than him, and they wrote it that way, and it's really ham-fisted. It's really, really ham-fisted.
About how hard women have it in the United States in the middle of a comic book show? Is that hugely important? Or is that you guys virtue signaling to...
Well, it's actually the perfect show for that to be talked about. She-Hulk is the perfect show to have this particular messaging. The problem is, I really wish they would have done it better. Xander Hall, wait, no, that delivery makes perfect sense for that scene. Bruce was doing the thing that has happened to her entire life. No, he wasn't. Bruce has been the Hulk for like 25 years in universe, and she became the Hulk that day, and she's claiming she's better at being the Hulk than him, and he's like, no, you just became a Hulk. I need to teach you how to do everything from controlling your anger, because if you get mad, what he explains is if you get too fucking mad one day and you just black out, which she did twice in the first episode, you could just end up killing everybody in the room, and now you just murdered a bunch of innocent people. That is the consequence of you losing control of your temper. And that's how he explains it. And she's like, Sweaty, I don't think you realize, but I'm infinitely better at controlling my anger than you because I'm a woman and my life is this hard. And it's like, okay, but like, if you do lose your temper, though, you'll black out and wake up in a room full of people that have been dismembered. Okay? Like, the point he just made is not nullified by what you just said. And he is not mansplaining when he's been the Hulk for 25 years and you just became a Hulk today, okay? I'm sorry, but that was not mansplaining, my friends. Mansplaining is not when man explains something that he knows infinitely more about to a woman, okay? That knows nothing about that topic, okay?
To a group of people who entirely agree with you. I love the way that it works in Hollywood. It really is pretty spectacular. What happens is a writer puts something like this in the script, and the producer's like, this isn't very good, but we do have to put it. It's very important. It's so important. And then the director's like, I'm going to clap you on the back, producer and writer, because you did something so important. And then they all have a great big...
Holy fucking shit, is it wild to see two sides of, like, on one hand, it's funny, though, because She-Hulk and its cringy dialogue and cringy scenes really is the worst case scenario for, like, the left taking control of our institutions or whatever. But Ben Shapiro and his popularity online and his rhetoric and his fan base is just the surface of just the tip of the iceberg of what would happen if the right had full 100% control of our institutions, from media to the government.
Circle, hug. And then they're real happy with each other because they all agree with each other about all these things. They agree that women are so put upon in American society. Women are so victimized. They're constantly having to hold back in the face of male aggression. And it needs to be promoted to teenage boys who are watching She-Hulk. It's super important. By the way, I'm just going to point out here at the very end where she says, you might literally...
Why does he always sound so angry? Do I sound angry to you guys when I stream? Even when I get really passionate, Jesus, he looks like a goat, like his soul is being left one frame behind his body. Like his body is moving one frame faster than his soul is what it looks like. Do I sound this angry? Even when I talk passionately about a topic, do I sound this angry? Because I feel like Ben Shapiro sounds angry about everything. I've never heard Ben Shapiro come off as cool and collected. He always sounds triggered. It's wild to me that he uses triggered so much as a pejorative, and yet he is always triggered sounding. You usually just sound young? Fuck me. Especially if you're a hot MILF.
Literally be murdered if you're a woman for no other reason than you're a woman. Like if you ever get angry as a woman, a man might just...
Leave it to Ben Shapiro to somehow take, like, Ben Shapiro, even being the dishonest, grifting piece of shit that he is, didn't even have to lie or misrepresent or twist anything here in order to make content for his audience. He could have literally just honestly reacted to that clip and argued against it from a conservative perspective without any of the weird straw manning of the clip or anything like that, or the argument being made. And it would have been fine. And yet he still had to. Are conservatives incapable of operating honestly when they're not in a live debate format? When they're making their own videos and there's no left-wing person there to say, hey, what the fuck did you just say? You want to defend that point? Like, obviously when it's a live debate format, they're not this crazy, but in their prepared content, they are so fucking wild with how much they're willing to jump from like point A to point fucking Z.
Just come out of the woodwork and just stab you in the eye with a shiv. That is your life. And because women, if they're ever perceived as emotional or angry, then people just, they come along and they kill them. It's basically...
No. However, there is a danger for women who get even the slightest bit emotional, quote unquote, to be responded with by violence. It is a thing that happens, and it is a genuine threat. And as Ben has said, women tend to be more smaller and more weak and more frail than men tend to be. So they have typically have a pretty good reason to be a little bit afraid, Is this not something that Ben Shapiro, at least in essence, should agree with? Is this not the core? Wait a second. Hold on. Does Ben Shapiro not believe that trans women are a threat to women in women's bathrooms? I could do the same thing now. Oh, women are just going to get raped by trans women when they go into bathrooms. I can do the same thing to Ben Shapiro's dog shit arguments now. He's doing the same line of logic here. Or like the reverse line of logic, now he's incredulously saying, oh, so women are in so much danger if they do this and that. And meanwhile, in another video, he's going to talk about how women are at constant risk of being raped by trans women in women's restrooms. God, these people, they can't quite connect the dots, can they?
Basically like Afghanistan around here. Let me read you a statistic. Okay, here are the total number of murder victims in the United States in 2020 by gender. You ready? Total.
Men are overwhelmingly more, disproportionately, I believe, even more commonly the victims of murder. And the reason for that, from my understanding, I looked into this statistic like 3 years ago. If I remember correctly, the reason for this is that men tended to get into situations that would get them murdered more often. I think one of the examples was men oftentimes reported being less cautious in neighborhoods with high crime was one of them. Like, men oftentimes reported not feeling the need to look over their shoulder or anything like that, not feeling cautious. Men oftentimes reported not feeling in danger when approaching other men they feel like they may have an altercation with. Men reported, there was a bunch of stuff they listed that sounds victim blamey. I know you're memeing. However, it is important to consider factors like this when considering why certain data points might disproportionately be so much more different than another data point. But yeah, it seems like there is a statistical reason involving men's general, typical, broad, they generally tend to be a little bit more careless, a little bit less reserved with their bodily safety in situations where they might be fucking murdered than women do, because women are scared and more cautious. And society has taught them to be. Society has forced them to be. And that has resulted, seemingly, in men becoming, disproportionately larger victims of murder.
Total number of murder victims. Altogether, 17,754. And this is according to the Statista Research Department.
Why not read percentages? Why not read percentages?
In 2020, 17,754 total murder victims.
Okay, what are the percentages?
Female murder victims, 3,573. Male victims, 1,146.
So what is that, 70 to 80%?
So if we're just talking about who gets killed in the United States, in terms of homicide victims, I'm going to note that men get killed way more often than women. Now,
that sounded like, what was it, 3,000 something were women and 14,000 were men out of 17,000 roughly murders. Yeah, as I said before, men massively disproportionately the recipients of murder. But as I said before, the research I've done on it seems to suggest 3070. Yeah, the research seems to suggest that women are just more cautious in situations where they might be murdered because society has forced them to be.
That does not mean that women aren't put upon sometimes, that women don't have difficult experiences in life that many men don't have to have. But this notion that in widespread fashion, every woman is holding herself back all the time from a predatory, evil, male patriarchy. Women now constitute the vast majority of college graduates. Women are vastly overeducated in the United States.
I really do love this guy angrily yelling into the camera about how women's lives really are. I don't usually I never default to idpol as an argument. This isn't even an argument, really. I feel like I've already done a pretty good job of dunking on Ben Shapiro here. I just want to point out the hilarity of this little man screaming into his microphone and into his camera about how women really have it.
When compared to men, women coming out of college are earning more than men are when they first get out of college. There's a vast problem with...
What percentage of people are going to college, Ben? What percentage of women? What percentage of Gen Z and Gen X and millennials are going to college, Ben? You're talking about percentages of graduates, Ben. What percentage of society are college graduates? How's that rate going? What's the where is the value of a college degree headed right now, Ben? What direction is the percentage of college-educated Americans and Canadians going, Ben? Well, I guess I don't know much about Canadians. Canada's probably doing fine educationally, but America, which is where Ben is, how's that doing? This is a very obvious, like, bad argument, okay? Obviously, if we're trying to measure how well men are doing in comparison to women, just broadly speaking, you shouldn't be comparing college graduates. The vast majority of people in America are not college graduates. Not only that, but the people that are graduating college themselves are already overachievers. So maybe we got to do more corporal punishments in school. Yeah. No, yeah. Like, you're already selecting for a group of people who is more likely to be consisting of a certain demographic. And right now, this is the one point that, like, the MRAs and the conservatives have, and this isn't even a conservative or MRA argument, is that men are falling behind in education. This is true. Young boys are falling behind in education, and young girls are pulling ahead. However, this is still a feminist issue. We need to be more or less introducing a pretty strong sense of equity and equality where it's needed to our education when we talk about, like, who we're encouraging to pursue what career path.
Males in the United States, actually. Males are falling well behind their female counterparts in the United States, but we have to keep pushing.
He's not wrong there, at least in education.
Is the idea that women are victims in the United States. They're part of the victim coalition here in the United States.
Hey, what about the wages, Ben? How are the wages looking? Men are falling behind in education, but how are the wages looking? Outside of education and the actual workforce, Ben, how much are women making in comparison to men on average? Just curious. When we look at the workforce, which is the vast majority of Americans, not college students, how's that looking, Ben? How are they looking outside of education?
United States, and you have to hear it from SheHulk. SheHulk will tell you about it. It's so important, guys. So important. By the way, women are the majority of voters in the United States.
They're the majority of people on Earth.
It continues to be a source of amazement to me that the people in entertainment think that they are doing something heroic. Now, let them continue doing it. You want to create an...
It's so bizarre to me that conservatives will, like a pendulum, they'll swing between the argument of these corporations genuinely think they're doing something heroic, and these corporations are just weaponizing woke language in order to make money. But then at the same time, they're capitalists who are in favor of private corporations and then doing things to make money, and they're in favor of the free market. But they're also against corporations weaponizing woke messaging to make money. The through line is always gays, bad. Progressive messaging, bad. Anything that involves good things and freedom, bad. That's always the through line on every position they always take. Everything else is always inconsistent except for the gays are bad, brown people are bad, immigrants are bad, women are bad, usually. Anyone who disagrees with the right is bad. That is the only through line in anything they stand for.
Opening for market competition so that we here at Daily Wire can make kids content and take away some of your market share. I'm happy to do it. I mean, I'm fine with it. Makes me more money. But
only the right would think that a good argument against something is, hey, what you're doing is objectively bad, so we're going to do it because you guys doing it means it's okay now. Only the right would think that's sound logic.
As far as sort of poisonous pop culture, the wokeification of pop culture, again, taking things that used to be sort of the popcorn. I mean, there's nothing more popcorn than a comic book movie about a person who...
I'm going to title this video, The Wokeification of Pop Culture. Oh, God. How old is Ben Shapiro? Like 39, 41, 56? How old is he now? He's old. He's in his late 30s, right? 43? No shot. No shot. How old is Ben Shapiro? No shot. 38 years old. This is a 38-year-old man who just said the wokeification of media. This 38-year-old man in front of you just said with a straight face, unironically, the wokeification of media. I love this timeline so goddamn much.
Turns green and wears purple pants when he or she gets mad. Like, that's pretty popcorny. And to turn that into, let me lecture you about your white privilege. Let me lecture you about male patriarchal privilege. All right. I mean, you want to do it that way. That's you guys. But there will be market consequences, and there should be. How's this?
Ah, yes, I'm sure Disney is shaking in their boots, Ben. Zan, I didn't see the segment. Where does Ben land on the cringe meter in this video? Pretty damn high. We're going to call this video the wokeification of the MCU or something. I don't know. We'll make it really memey or something like that. Anyway, there's not really a message to get from this other than Ben Shapiro somehow came out looking bad from this video when all he had to do was make fun of something that was objectively cringy. That's all he had to do. Something that I found cringy, and yet he still came out of the video looking worse. That is a testament to how much of a dumb fuck Ben Shapiro is. It really, really is. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider leaving a like. If, it helps the channel out a lot. It is not just a hollow show of support. It does, in fact, force YouTube to post my content and more people's recommend it. It gets new eyes on my content. It gets new subscribers on my channel. It's always very much appreciated. So definitely consider liking the video. Or the stream, or the VOD, no matter what you're watching. It really does help. You can also follow my social media and see what else I'm doing online via my social media links, all linked down below in the description. Pretty much in every platform I stream on, so make sure to follow me on Twitter especially. It's where all the spiciest memes happen. And of course, don't forget to support me financially if you've got the money for it. I'm trying to raise money so I can rent a house up in Seattle and start raising quail and other animals to kind of act as like I really like animals, and I want to raise cool animals, and I want to have my own house to do so, and I also want to incorporate it into my content, and everybody fucking loves animals, so animals plus politics plus YouTube equals fun, so let's do that. And if you want to support it, then you guys know how to donate. You can either donate, subscribe, or gift a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or you can support me financially on YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, or Patreon. Regardless of how you support me, I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much to all of you, and have a good one.